This is Julian Marshall with NewsHour live from the BBC in London. The Chinese city of Shanghai is at the centre of the country's biggest outbreak of COVID since the peak of the first virus wave in Wuhan 2 years ago. It's also China's economic engine room, and as Shanghai enters its third week of lockdown, tensions are rising as residents and businesses tire of the restrictions. Roland Smid is correspondent in Shanghai for the Netherlands RTL News.
Yesterday there was a protest, but it was a local protest by a couple of residents who were basically told that they had to leave their rental apartments because those apartments were being transformed into COVID quarantine locations. Because in Shanghai, still every person who contracts COVID needs to be put in isolation. So the local government is frantically searching for locations to put these people. So these people were told that they basically had to leave their apartments and to go elsewhere. But obviously these people were not happy about it. They protested. And then before you know it, police arrived and all kinds of violence happened. People were being pushed to the ground. I even saw images of a pregnant woman being pushed to the ground and she was receiving some kind of care. Those were very dramatic scenes that you don't usually see in a city like Shanghai.
This obviously speaks to the rising number of daily infections if the authorities are now looking for extra capacity to house them.
Yeah, so every day, roughly 20,000 new cases emerge. The current situation seems fairly endless because the number of cases is not really dropping. It has been fairly consistent, roughly around 20,000 in the last couple of days. So even though the whole city is in lockdown, the number of cases doesn't really drop. So that's an alarming sign.
Elsewhere in the world, business communities have pushed back against prolonged lockdowns, pointing to the economic damage. Are you having some of that in Shanghai as well?
Well, it seems like it because today there was actually a bit of news that more than 600 companies would be allowed some kind of exemption from some of the rules in order for them to resume their critical business. And I suppose if that really comes to fruition, that would be a helpful thing for these companies in the region, because I'm also talking to entrepreneurs and people who operate factories and such here in the area, and they basically say it's a nightmare. Everything from getting raw materials into factories to getting the actual products onto trucks and onto trains, and then eventually to the ports for export. It's a total disaster. The whole area around Shanghai, it's the Yangtze River Delta, which also includes a bunch of other major cities like Nanjing, Suzhou, etc. All those cities are basically very hard to reach right now. And as a result, a lot of businesses are being damaged very severely, and so is the economy.
Roland Smid, correspondent in Shanghai for RTL News of Netherlands.